There are tough noobs. There are, the old school guys, the UFC bangers, the guys who got started like myself back at UFC 1 on the black box days. And then there are the people who grew up with Conor McGregor, the noobs, even later than tough noobs. Well, this video, we're going to get way back. We're going to go to the early 2000s. We're going to go to yes, that's right, my top 5 MMA title fights from the early 2000s. And full disclaimer, these are my top 5, not necessarily your top 5 or anybody else's top 5, but they are mine. And they're the top 5 title fights of the early 2000s. So let's get right into this. The very first one that I've got is Matt Hughes versus Frank Trigg 2. Now, this fight was epic. If you did not watch it, it blew utter expectations. This was a back and forth battle. Trigg had some serious power on his side and looked to get the job done, and it didn't be the case. Like, look at that. Matt Hughes, huge takedowns, monster takedowns in this fight, followed up by Frank Trigg getting the fight to the mat, reversing positions, looking to lock in that rear naked choke, didn't get the job done, and ultimately it went from Trigg going for the rear naked choke to Matt Hughes finalizing things and getting the job done with the rear naked choke. What an epic fight. If you have not watched this, head on over to UFC Fight Pass or wherever you can find fights and check out Frank Trigg versus Matt Hughes 2, April 16th, 2005. This fight went down at UFC 52, and on Tapology, it's ranked the number 43 greatest fight of all time, the number 15 greatest submission of all time, the number 6 greatest welterweight MMA fight of all time, 80th best submission of the year 2010, and the greatest comeback of all time. Matt Hughes versus Frank Trigg 2, 4 minutes and 5 seconds into the very first round. It seemed like it was much longer than that, but it wasn't, folks. You need to check out this fight. The next one on my list, I talked about tough noobs. It's not necessarily a title fight, but Forrest Griffin versus Stephan Bonnar, tough one finale. This arguably set the tone for where the UFC went. Everybody knows that. If you were not watching MMA back in the day prior to the UFC and Tough with Pride and all those other events, this might have gotten you hooked. There might have been a phone call and said, hey, check out Spike. There's this fight going on. I know a lot of people that I've spoken to have talked about that, but this fight was a back and forth battle with both men swinging, both men throwing, and the bloody mess that went down. They just stood toe to toe, banged it out, and it went full 3 rounds. Ultimate Fighter 1 finale, and these guys just put on a show. As I said, this one goes down as my number 2 pick for top MMA title fights. Again, it wasn't a title fight. Forrest Griffin earned the unanimous decision in this one. It went a full 3 rounds, and he held the title of the Ultimate Fighter. Stephan Bonnar went home with a contract as well. This fight went to the UFC Hall of Fame and arguably put both men on the map and the UFC on the map at that. Over on Tapology, it is the number 10 greatest fight of all time and the number 2 greatest light heavyweight MMA fight of all time. It went down at the Ultimate Fighter 1 finale, April 9th, 2005. I guarantee you guys have all seen this fight, but if you haven't and you want to relive it, this is one for the ages. My next one, and these are in no particular order. So I'm not going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm not going 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. They're in no particular order. I just want you to check them out because they are probably the greatest MMA title fights of the early 2000s, in my opinion. The next one, Fedor Melanenko versus Mirko Croco. Pride, Final Conflict 2005. Again, another banger. This one went 3 rounds. It went to a unanimous decision, and Mirko Croco did not get the job done despite what a lot of these pictures look like. Fedor Melanenko takes the decision. Croco utilizing the legs. Again, another fight that was a back and forth battle. This was a highly anticipated heavyweight title fight. It took years to make official. After 20 minutes, a broken nose, and a slew of body shots, Melanenko prevailed and defended his belt. Look at these shots. Pride was a thing. It was a spectacle back in the day. And look at Fedor, that eye. That was the one where, you know, in the post-fight press conference, they made the memes of the robot eye because of, look at that. Croco had his way with Fedor, but Fedor took home the nod and the unanimous decision and the Pride Conflict belt. My next one, Randy Couture versus Pedro Hizzo, UFC 31. I can't show you guys many pictures of this one because from back in the day, UFC 31, I don't know if there were many photographers on the scene. So this is the lone photo I have from this fight. Over on Tapology, UFC 31, locked and loaded, Atlantic City, New Jersey, May 4th, 2001. Randy Couture defeats Pedro Hizzo via unanimous decision after 5 rounds, 25 total minutes, earning the UFC Heavyweight Championship. It is the number 63 greatest fight of all time, the number 33 greatest heavyweight MMA fight of all time. And Randy Couture went on to do big things after this in multiple weight classes. This was an epic fight. Again, it went 5 full rounds and it went to the decision. And if you haven't checked this one out, this one is on UFC Fight Pass, I'm sure, so you can have a look at that. My final fight that I want to talk about, BJ Penn versus Matt Hughes, UFC 46. These two tussled multiple times, but BJ Penn, with one of the biggest upsets of all time at UFC 46, January 31st, 2004 in Las Vegas, BJ Penn earned himself the welterweight championship with a rear naked choke over Matt Hughes. This one was a bloody mess, and it was beautiful. BJ Penn with the upset. As over on Tapology says, 4 minutes and 39 seconds into the very first round, BJ Penn secured that rear naked choke. It is the number 16 submission of all time. It is the number 19 biggest upset of all time. And it is the number 23 greatest welterweight fight of all time. As I said, BJ Penn and Matt Hughes went on to face each other more times. So that was the first one. BJ Penn then lost to Matt Hughes at UFC 63 by punches in the third round. That one did not go his way. And then they fought again at UFC 123, and BJ Penn TKO'd Matt Hughes just 21 seconds into the very first round. Very impressive stuff. This one put BJ Penn sort of on the map. I mean, he was a notable name to begin with because he is the prodigy. And, you know, there were a ton of videos about him. But this one shocked the world. So those are my 5 best top MMA title fights of the early 2000s. I'm going to be back with another video doing my top 5 MMA title fights of the 2010s, and then I'm going to do one of the 2020s so far. And we might have another few videos along the same lines. So if you like this, make sure you let me know your favorite MMA title fights of the early 2000s, and maybe give me your ideas for the best MMA title fights of the 2010s and the 2020s, because I want to hear them. I want to see if they're the same as mine, and I want to know what you guys have to say. So let me know in the comment section below your favorites. Make sure you check out Slappy's, the best vodka soda in town.